Hey there, welcome back to the channel. So I got a story time for you and a life lesson that could probably maybe save your life someday. So we used to go to Cancun every year. I love it down there. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's so much better than the west coast of Mexico because it's on the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America or Gulf of whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it's called anymore. But the water's always warm and it's blue and it's clear and it's wonderful. Anyway, for 30 years, my mom had a condo there. And so 30 years of my adult life, we went just about every year, if not every other year, to go down there and be with her for a few weeks. And we stayed at this wonderful resort that was right on the beach. I mean, she had a room on the 5th floor that literally looked right over on the beach. It was awesome. And we would take our kids down there, and then after I was divorced, I would still go and maybe bring a friend with me, and hang out because she had a huge condo. It had 2 bedrooms, and back in the day, it was called the Royal Caribbean. I think it's a Hilton now, but yeah, if you ever want to go down there and check out, I think it's the Hilton. It's a beautiful location. It's just right across the street is a great bar with karaoke. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So anyway, I love playing in the ocean. I live near the ocean here in Washington. I'm only a couple hours away from the beach. I don't necessarily like the ocean here because it's freaking cold, but I loved playing in the ocean down there. And when our kids were little, we would just go out and we'd take our boogie boards and we'd ride the waves and we'd do all the things and swim and never had any issues. Well, this one time at band camp, no, I'm just kidding. Only a few of you will get that. Anyway, this one time I was there, and it was my mom and her husband and me and I think one of my sisters and one of her friends, just kind of hanging out for the week. And my one sister doesn't really like the beach, so they were always up at the pool. And I wanted to go down and play in the surf. So I had done it a million times, no problem. I'm out there by myself. People everywhere. It's not like I'm out in the middle of the ocean by myself. There were people everywhere, and there was a lifeguard on duty, and all the things. Well, I'm bouncing out there playing in the waves and doing my thing and lift my feet up and kind of floating on my back a little bit or tread wire or whatever, and all of a sudden I realize I can't touch anymore. Okay, so I'll swim back in. I start to swim back towards the beach, and I am making no progress. I didn't realize I wasn't making any progress right away. Now, something you needed to know about me at this time. This was about 10 years ago, so I was probably like 45, 46. I was in great shape. I went to the gym, to the Y here. I swam all the time. I lifted weights. Not the flabby, sad shell that I am today. I was in great shape. I swam all the time, so I had no fear. And I'm out there. I did not have a flotation device with me at the time because, who needs it? I'm a great swimmer, right? I'm in great shape. I'm the prime of my life. Anyway, I start to swim in, and I realize after a few minutes of swimming, I'm not making any progress. In fact, I think I'm going backwards. What's happening here? And so I start to swim a little harder. And I start to swim a little harder. And I'm not making any progress. I'm kind of just staying put. And the waves were probably 4 to 6 feet because people surf there. I mean, they're not like tiny waves. This is waves coming in off the ocean, and they're pretty good size. And I'm out there, in these waves because I had been playing in them, and when I could touch it was cool. But now I'm like, wait a minute, what's happening? And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, the waves will bring me in, won't they? No, they don't bring you in. Not when you're in a riptide. Now, I had heard of riptides, as I'm sure many of you have. What it is, and I'll try to put some kind of diagram up here when I'm editing. What a riptide is when the water is coming into the beach and then circling out and usually going back out. The current is going back out, but just in a narrow passage. Like it can be maybe only 100 feet wide. It's not very big, but it is definitely going out. I had somehow gotten caught in that. And I've seen all the videos. I've been around the ocean all my life. Whenever you get caught in a riptide, you don't swim against it. You swim across it, which may take you out a little further, but it will get you out of that part that's going back out and get you to the part that's going in so that you can swim in. Unfortunately, by the time I realized I wasn't making any progress, I was starting to get a little tired because I had been swimming pretty hard trying to get back in against these, and I'm fighting these huge waves and stuff too. And I went into panic mode. My brain, even though it knew what it had to do, would not allow my body to do that. It just wanted to live. And I was swimming for all I was worth. And I was not making any progress. And the most frustrating part about the whole thing is I could see the lifeguard. He's right there. He can see me, but apparently doesn't realize I'm struggling. I could see my own mother and her husband on the balcony. You know, granted, they were small and I was small to them. They might not even realize it was me. I thought they knew it was me. But anyway, they're not realizing I'm struggling. I could see other swimmers and people on either side of me and in front of me, where it was shallower, playing and having a good time, and no one knew I was struggling. I felt so alone, surrounded by people. And I swam and I swam and I was making no headway. And I knew if I could just get my toes into the sand, I could pull myself forward enough to get to where I could touch, I'd be okay. And so with every couple of strokes, I'd put my foot down and reach as far as I could. And sometimes my toes just grazed it, but it wasn't enough and I would get pushed back again. And I just had this fear, and I am not a fearful person. You guys have watched my videos. You know, I'm kind of a strong gal. I'm not afraid of things. I do things. I'm assertive, And like I said, I was in great shape. I had no reason to be afraid. But the harder and longer I swam, pretty soon, I literally started to feel weak. My arms started to feel like jello. I mean, it was like, maybe you don't, but when you lift weights to the point of collapse and you can't lift them anymore, that's how my arms were starting to feel. I couldn't sweat, I was just, and I was getting short of breath. I couldn't, I was just getting so tired and I wasn't making any headway. And I thought, this is it. This is how I die, in front of all these people. And no one's here to save me. They're all here, but no one's going to help me. And I started to pray. Oh, God, if you're there, if you exist, please just let my toes reach the sand. And I'm crying and I'm swimming for all I'm worth, and I'm stroking and I'm swimming. And I just thought this was it. And then I almost gave up. Now, this felt like I had been swimming for 295 days. This whole thing was probably 20 minutes that I went through this. But there's a difference. Like, I could swim 20 minutes. That's not a big deal. But when you're fighting for your life for 20 minutes in panic mode, it burns a different kind of energy. I'm just saying, it burns a different kind of energy. Because I could go in the pool at home and swim pretty hard, pretty fast. I can go the whole lap back then without even taking a breath. 20 minutes was nothing. I would swim an hour and a half, doing back and forth laps at different kinds of strokes and at a pretty good clip, But when you're fighting for your life, it's burning a different kind of energy. And then you're taking in gulps of water because you're panicking and the whole thing. And it's like, this is it. This is how I die. And I'm praying, God, please, just let someone see me. Someone needs to help me, and I'm crying out to God. And by some miracle, my toe finally dug enough into the sand, obviously because I'm here, right? I didn't die that day. Spoiler alert. My feet got into that sand somehow, and I think what actually happened is I moved enough sideways out of the current that I was able to make a little headway and get back into the sand, and I basically walked in, and then I collapsed and I crawled to the beach and collapsed on the sand, pretty much at the foot of the lifeguard, because he was up on one of those tower things. He was right there. He was right there the whole time. And I just laid there, gasping, wheezing for air. And I don't smoke or nothing, but I remember just that wheezing sound of trying to get air and coughing. And did he say, "Oh, are you okay?" No. He just, still scanning out there and, seeing what's happening, watching the seagulls or picking his nose. I don't know what he was doing. I laid there and I'm looking up at the balcony, and my mom and her husband were still standing there looking down. I don't know if they even knew it was me, because like I said, they were 5 floors up. And I laid there for quite a while, probably half an hour. Finally, I felt like I had enough energy. I could walk back up to the room, and because it was a little bit of a walk to get there and get in the elevator and do all the things. And I come into the room. I'm like, "Mom, did you not see me out there?" She goes, "Oh, no, we didn't see you." And I'm like, "It's not funny. I almost died. and she thought I was cutting up because I cut up and make up, I like to tell a story. And I finally let her know that, no, it was serious. I was scared. And I didn't go back in the ocean that whole trip. But I have now started going back in the ocean. But I'll tell you what, I will never, ever go back into the ocean without some kind of flotation device. A little boogie board, little inner tube, something that if I get tired, I can rest for a minute. And again, I knew what I had to do. I knew I had to swim across. I mean, I've lived around the water all my life. I had never really actually gotten caught in a riptide, but I knew about them. My grandmother used to warn me about them, all the things, but I'd never been caught in one. And I didn't realize the panic that would set in. I thought that if it ever happened to me, because I'm a strong, willful, person, that I would know, well, you have to swim sideways and then you swim in and you'll be okay and blah, blah, blah. But when you're in, 4 to 6 foot waves and they're crashing and you're getting tossed around and you can see the beach, it's like right there. It's right there. I couldn't get to it. So I'm here to tell you that if you are at the ocean, or if you have grandkids or kids and they're out playing in the ocean, even if they're only waist deep, always have a flotation device with them of some kind. Because I really was only, the water was only up to about my breasts. I mean, I was still standing and touching, but I treaded water for a few minutes and it was just enough of that current to take me that few extra feet where I couldn't touch. A wave picked me up and took me out where I couldn't touch. And that was all it took. And had I not been as strong a swimmer as I was, I probably would have drowned. I mean, like today, as weak and flabby as I am, there's no way I would have survived. There's no way. No way. I was in the best shape of my life right about then, which probably still isn't as good a shape as some people, but I was in pretty damn good shape. I was swimming all the time at the gym. I was, and it almost killed me. So I just want people to know that it's a thing. It's a thing. It's not just an old wives' tale, and I will, I can't tell you enough. Watch your little ones out there. It doesn't take much for them to pull out, and especially teenagers, they think they're invincible. Don't you remember when you were 13, 14, 15, even 18, nothing's going to kill me. I'm invincible. I was thinking that at 45, so just be very, very, mindful and pay attention and have a flotation device with you of some kind, because even if you have another person with you, like you say, well, I can be there. Well, if you're both in the riptide, you're not helping either one of you are helping each other. So have some kind of flotation device nearby. And if you ever do get caught in a riptide and you feel like after you take a few strokes and you feel like I am not making any headway, because you can usually get a landmark or another person or something, because they can be just 50, 60 feet from you, and not be in the riptide. And so there's kind of staying put. And if you're swimming and you're not passing them, or you're going backwards, you're in a riptide. So you need to swim maybe towards that person, to get out of the riptide. You need to swim across and then in. So I hope this helps somebody. I hope you're having a great day. It's raining like cats and dogs here, so I'm just inside with the puppy, and have a good one.